O empenho da humanidade deve ser não apenas adquirir segurança financeira e boa saúde, mas procurar o significado da vida. A vida, do que se trata? Quando pensamos com suficiente profundidade, encontramos uma resposta em nosso interior. Esta é uma forma de prece atendida. Esta mensagem é de Paramahansa Yogananda. O Viver Natural está começando. Hoje nós vamos continuar a nossa série de 3 programas sobre a Kriya Yoga, Paramahansa Yogananda e a Self-Realization Fellowship. O Viver Natural esteve em Los Angeles, onde entrevistamos outro monge da Self-Realization Fellowship, Atmananda, na sede da Self-Realization Fellowship, organização fundada por Paramahansa Yogananda em 1920. Atmananda nos falou como a Kriya Yoga foi aceita nos Estados Unidos, como Yogananda divulgou a técnica no país, entre outras informações. Estivemos no lugar onde ficaram partes das cinzas de um dos maiores líderes pacifistas de toda a história, Mahatma Gandhi. Yogananda foi quem iniciou Gandhi na sagrada técnica da Kriya Yoga. A Kriya Yoga é um conjunto de meditações muito avançadas que, de acordo com seus praticantes, ajudam a acelerar o desenvolvimento espiritual de uma pessoa para que ela obtenha a iluminação, um estado de profunda paz interior, alegria e felicidade. Conhecida também como a ciência espiritual da autorrealização, a Kriya Yoga foi difundida para o Ocidente através de Paramahansa Yogananda. Atmananda explicou o que sente durante a prática da Kriya Yoga e como esta técnica pode ajudar a vida das pessoas que a praticam. Veja só a entrevista. How has Kriya Yoga been accepted in the US?
Well, when Yogananda came to this country in 1920, it was yoga, and the whole idea of the Eastern spiritual tradition was very foreign and unknown to the population at that time. But by the 50s, 60s, and particularly the 70s, it was very much embraced. As you know, Eastern philosophies and spirituality were very topics of interest. And so self-realization has been around, Self-Realization Fellowship, which is the organization that Yogananda founded, has been around from the very beginning. And so it's been accepted very well by people who are looking for a balance to their lives, because what do we have to deal with in this world is a lot of stress, a lot of tension, and a lot of anxiety and fear due to the world conditions. So where do you find safety and comfort from that? And that's the teaching of meditation, the practice of Kriya Yoga, which calms the mind and the body in a natural way, helps us to go inside and find our peace and security and sense of well-being within. And even if there's external conditions that are threatening or difficult, we can still have that inner peace.
America is focused on external progress, money, and success. How can Kriya Yoga help people achieve inner peace?
Well, there's nothing wrong with pursuit of wealth and success, but that's only half of the equation for a balanced and healthy life. The other half is to have an inner life where you not only are seeking outwardly, but you are also developing yourself inwardly as a soul, as a child of God. And that's where meditation, Kriya Yoga comes in, is it awakens the other side of our lives by helping us to have an inner life that is that is the core of our being. And then when we pursue our success and our goals outwardly, we're doing it from a place of balance and peace and a well-being, rather than a frantic drive for more and more and better and more money and more cars and more possessions, because that does not give happiness. That only dries up. So the happiness that we're looking for really is inside. But to balance it with rightful striving for success and doing good works in the world, that's righteous. That's righteousness. That's fine. But if you don't have both going, then life is out of balance, and inevitably we suffer from that.
When Kriya Yoga was brought to the US, was there a lot of resistance?
Well, Yogananda started small, and so he was not a threat to major organized religions, but there were a lot of people, of course, who didn't understand. You know, he was a Hindu in a turban and an orange robe, and so he was like, a figure completely outside of most people's imagination. He actually got a very warm reception from a lot of people in Boston, which was the first place that he came in 1920. Quite a following there. And that's because of Thoreau and Emerson. There was a religious liberality in that area that was receptive to new teachings like this. But in other places, yes, he was misunderstood, and people spoke ill of him, they not understanding what his mission was. But over time, he persevered. He didn't pay any attention to that. He just kept on going because he knew that what he was doing here was important and was meant to be. And now self-realization is a very respected organization worldwide, and Yogananda is a major world spiritual figure. So there was resistance, but it was not important.
Can you explain to us what is Kriya Yoga?
Kriya Yoga is a technique, the Sanskrit word is pranayama, which means control, energy or life force control. And the energy that is normally, burning in our five senses, which connects us to the outside world, through Kriya Yoga can be relaxed and brought within, so that we are very calm, and we are not so plugged into our external senses, but we're aware of our internal life, and we begin to feel a wonderful sense of peace and joy, because that's who we truly are. The old scriptural saying is that we're the children of God, and well, what does that mean? It means that we are a part of God, and God's nature is peace, it's joy, it's love, wisdom, and light. And when we calm the five senses down, we can become increasingly aware of who we truly are within. And so some people think that sitting and closing your eyes and being still for a while would be, well, what's, just sitting in the dark, what's that about? But it's not so. There's a wonderful process of discovery of the inner life, of who we truly are. And it's really it's an infinite journey. There's no limit to how deeply we can go into the awareness of God's presence. And it's a very wonderful experience.
So when people practice Kriya Yoga, are they doing exercises?
It's a technique that combines breathing, visualization, and directing of energy. It has to do with the spine, which is the centers of higher awareness in our consciousness. And it lifts the consciousness up from the material and the physical into the spiritual. Where our energy is, there is our attention and our mind. And if our energy is brought within, then our attention and our consciousness and our awareness are internalized and directed towards God.
Vamos fazer um rápido intervalo. Voltamos já já com a continuação da entrevista com o monge Atmananda e a prática da Kriya Yoga. Estamos de volta com o Viver Natural e com a entrevista com o monge americano Atmananda, no santuário de Lake Shrine, na Sunset Boulevard, em Los Angeles, Califórnia. Este santuário possui uma história muito interessante. Um belo dia, o proprietário dessa área, chamada Lake Shrine, um grande produtor do cinema americano, teve um sonho, e neste sonho vinha para ele que ele deveria doar a propriedade do Lake Shrine para a igreja de todas as religiões. Ele achou estranho e não fez nada, então ele teve o mesmo sonho mais 2 vezes. Na terceira vez, ele acordou no meio da noite e procurou a igreja de todas as religiões na lista telefônica e encontrou um telefone. Naquela época, o nome da Self-Realization Fellowship era a Igreja de Todas as Religiões. No dia seguinte, na parte da manhã, ele ligou para a Self-Realization Fellowship e falou com o Paramahansa Yogananda. Em poucos dias, a doação foi finalizada e a Self abriu sua sede em Los Angeles. Vamos acompanhar agora a segunda parte da entrevista. O monge Atmananda nos fala o que uma pessoa sente quando pratica Kriya Yoga e o que ele sente quando ele pratica esta técnica. How long must one practice Kriya Yoga to feel inner peace?
Well, there's a certain number of repetitions of the breathing exercise of Kriya, and that increases in time as one gets used to it. It doesn't take very long. I mean, it's a powerful technique. Just a few practices make a difference in one's consciousness. And it's not a practice that you go on practicing for hours. You do it for a period of time, but then you actually enter into what is truly meditation, which is complete stillness, inner stillness, and absorption in the presence of God. Kriya Yoga is a technique to get us to that inner state of true meditation.
Can anyone practice Kriya Yoga?
Yes, it's a universal technique. It's not something that's limited to Eastern or Indian or anything like that. It's a technique for any human being, because we all have the same psychophysiological makeup in our bodies, minds, and souls. And so anyone can practice it successfully. If one has difficulties in congestion or lung problems, that sort of thing, it can be a little difficult. But there are alternative ways of practicing that Paramahansa Yogananda prescribed for those kinds of conditions. That really affects, in my experience, very few people. Most people can practice Kriya Yoga successfully. It's not an arduous or difficult thing to do. It's fairly simple and straightforward.
What do you experience when you practice Kriya Yoga?
When I practice Kriya correctly and deeply, I feel a sense of energy and magnetism inside of me and along my spine. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, that's the centers of higher awareness in our being. I become less aware of the world, and there's this wonderful feeling of joy. It's very absorbing. I have no desire to go, do and go up and get up and do something. I just want to stay in that wonderful feeling of joy and peace inside. And it's inspirational in the sense of an increased awareness of that God is inside of me, within me, very close. And even though we see God in nature and appreciate and feel inspiration there, this is a more direct and more personal and more meaningful connection with God. It's very direct. It's like you feel you are in the presence of God when your consciousness is pulled inside. And so it's really the most beautiful experience I've ever felt, even though I have a great appreciation for nature and sunset and the ocean and so forth. It's those parts of nature hint at God, but when we are inside, we are experiencing God directly. There's no separation.
How long have you been practicing?
Oh, about 35 years.
35 years?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a profession before? And if you did, how did Kriya Yoga help you in that profession?
Well, I was in college, and interestingly, the first year I was in college, one of the textbooks in one of my classes was the autobiography of a yogi, which is the life story of Paramahansa Yogananda. And I was very powerfully drawn to that book and to Yogananda as well. And so I inquired about how can I become associated with his work, with his teachings. And of course I sent off immediately to learn how to practice Kriya Yoga. But then I realized that I had an aspiration and a vocation to become a monk and devote my entire life to being a part of Yogananda's work and to serve in that way. So it was a college textbook that brought me this connection. I came directly from school to the ashrams of Yogananda. I didn't even finish. I went 3 years there, and I was not very focused in school about a particular career. As soon as I found this path, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so as soon as they accepted me, I came here to Southern California and entered the ashrams.
What are the practical benefits of Kriya Yoga, and how can it help people in their daily lives?
Many practical benefits. I, as a monk, I've only formed, I'm only a small percentage of the population of people who are following the path of Kriya Yoga. Most of our members are people with their professions, careers, families. They're fully integrated into society. And the value of Kriya Yoga in their lives has to do with the fact that you can always perform better in your work if you're calm, even if you have a power of concentration, if you're focused, if you're staying in the moment and you're aware of what you're doing. This is what meditation confers into our consciousness. It takes us out of restlessness and mind out of control, emotions out of control, into a very focused and disciplined ability to do the work that we're doing. And that translates into success no matter what field you're in. It also has to do with the awakening of intuition, that inner sense of being in tune with the flow of creativity and guidance that is available to all of us, but normally we're cut off from because of restlessness and because of being unbalanced emotionally and mentally. When we're in an intuitive place in the work that we're doing, we are guided to make right choices and to do the thing that will bring success and that will bring good, in whatever career, whatever field. It applies everywhere. So mental and emotional balance, calmness, focusing, the ability to concentrate deeply, and intuitive awareness, openness to inner guidance in our careers.
Vamos fazer mais um intervalo. Voltamos em seguida. Não saia daí. Estamos de volta com o Viver Natural. Nesta última parte do programa, o monge da organização Self-Realization Fellowship, Atmananda, nos explica o que a organização criada por Paramahansa Yogananda faz para contribuir para a paz no mundo. Por ter mencionado Deus várias vezes durante a entrevista, eu perguntei a ele se uma pessoa precisa acreditar em Deus para a prática da Kriya Yoga. O que você acha? Veja a resposta que ele deu.
Meditation services where we chant Om, raise our hands, and we visualize that the power and the light of God is flowing through. And you can feel the power of that. It's enormous. And we've had people talk about how they came to one of those services and some chronic problem that they were facing was just disappeared. And that happens pretty regularly. It's very inspiring.
What do you do to contribute to world peace?
Well, Yogananda had a beautiful way of talking about where there is darkness, you don't, assault it or fight it, you bring in light. And that's what we do in our worldwide prayer circle. We have a healing service that we practice frequently every day. The monks and nuns of the Self-Realization Order pray for peace morning and night. And what we do is we visualize the light of God, which is infinite, the power of God to heal and to bring about harmony, forgiveness, brotherhood, and healing in body, mind, and soul, and in the world, the world arena as well. We visualize the power of God, and we chant Om, we raise our arms, and we visualize that infinite power of God coming, and we pray for individual people that maybe, we have our own individual things that we're praying for, but we also pray for world harmony. And I know that when I do this service, I visualize the earth and surrounded by the light of God and permeated with the light of God, and removing the causes of conflict and hatred and violence and darkness that are there. But the way to oppose that is not to fight it, but to bring light in. And that's what we try to do every day in our worldwide prayer circle.
Can an atheist practice Kriya Yoga?
Actually, yes. It's a scientific process. You don't have to believe in anything, and that's one of the things that really appealed to me about Yogananda's teachings, is there's not a dogma that you have to sign up for and, you agree to believe in the following things. All you have to do is practice this technique. And energetically, you have an experience within that is an experience of peace or joy. And if you want to put the name of God on that, that's fine. If a person is not comfortable doing it with that, well, it's still the same experience. And whatever force, intelligence is holding creation together, to be in touch with that greater force is always a wonderful experience, whether or not you put a label or a name on it.
What types of people are attracted to Kriya Yoga?
It really cuts across all boundaries of human types, races, religious backgrounds, financial levels, cultural backgrounds. We have people from all paths and all backgrounds here, educated, not educated, young and old. It appeals to the soul, and it hits upon a level that's deeper than outer circumstance, it seems to me. Because no matter who you are, no matter what your financial status is or your cultural background, you want inner happiness, you want inner peace. That's something that all humankind has in common. And so we have a wonderful family of total variety in this temple here, in the Lake Shrine, and around the world, our worldwide following. I remember the first time I went to a large gathering. We have a yearly gathering that we call the Convocation. And this was back in 1970. And I was in this room, and we were singing a devotional song, and I was looking around, and there was an elderly woman, looked like sort of my grandmother, and there was people, every type of person was in that room, and we were all singing to God. And it was like profoundly moving, and I was just stunned by, the impact of feeling part of like a world family of all people who were interested in knowing God.
In how many countries is Kriya Yoga present today?
Wish I had that number. Well, I know that we have members in almost every country in the world. There's many in this country, European nations. India, of course, our sister society is there, and that's actually where Yogananda started the self-realization movement. Japan, China, Southeast Asia, Africa, South America. There's many, many members in South America, in Brazil, Rio, Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires, and the other countries. So it's all over the world. Sort of additional testament to the fact that it appeals to everyone.
When do you think the autobiography of a yogi will become a movie?
There have been many plans in the works for years about that, but none of them have actually come to fruition yet. I think the challenge would be who would be able to portray Yogananda accurately, because he was really a sort of a super human being. His qualities were radiant, and he was an avatar. He was sent by God, and he just the vibration and particularly the love that he radiated would be something that would be a challenge to portray in a movie. But I'm sure that it will be done one day. Maybe Yogananda will have to reincarnate to play himself in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Any other considerations you would like to tell us?
Well, it's inspiring to us to feel the interest in